supernatural babies to What to Watch Now, where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And today we are talking about something, just so close to my heart. I'm cradling my heart as we speak this very moment. We are talking about the almost perfect, even when it's flawed, show I've rewatched countless times. The masterpiece that is Supernatural. We are starting with our first episode today, lamely called The Pilot. You think they'd go back and give it a name? A lot of shows do. They'll say pilot on Netflix, but if you look at the IMDb, it will go in, they'll go in and change the name to a more fanciful title. But this show, I promise you, right here and now, that unlike other shows on this podcast, where I go through a few episodes, talk about if you should watch it or not, and what my general impression of it was, I'm going to be going over this entire show. Hey, but isn't there like 13 seasons? Yes, and I will go over all of them. The good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's how good this show is. Even when it starts to, the writer, the main creator, stepped off of the show, and, some people said it wasn't good anymore. No. It got better in a different kind of way. This is the only show, and this is the last thing I'll say before we actually go into talking about it, when it is corny or just something's happening, there's nothing better than I'm at the gym and I'm on the elliptical and maybe my neighbor, like some creepy guy who's being a creep next to me, dares to look over at what I'm watching on my phone, and he sees one of the boys being strangled or someone being stabbed to death, and maybe there's angels and demons and fire, and I'm just laughing. I just can't stop laughing. That's what this show does to me. It just gives me nothing but pure joy. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not sitting here saying every performance was amazing, but I think it's amazing in a different kind of way. You know what I mean? And I think we can all get down with that. And I'm going to, either if you're a Supernatural lover and you're just here for the fun ride to relive it all, or I need to convince you why you should be watching and religiously adding this show to your queue of super memorable shows in your lifetime, here we are. Get up, buckle in, get into Baby, which is, Dean's car, and, I don't know, what's Sam's? Put on your flared hair wig and let's just go. Come on, guys. Okay. So you go into the show going, I have no idea what it's about, right? What would you say defines this show? Now, unfortunately, this show has a lot of flaws in the first episode, like many pilots. It comes across a lot more sexist. There's an unusual amount of just straight up boob or butt shots, and considering that most of the demographic of this show is pretty, I can't speak for everyone's beliefs, but very feministic, awesome, smart women that love this show. That doesn't really feel like it caters to, them. They put that out of the show very quickly because they realize that, or they realize that no one on Earth cares about that. They really actually want to see well-written characters and an interesting plot line, which the show already had. You know what I mean? You weren't this show's pretty good, but I don't know. And then you saw some boobs and you're like, well, I can't get boobs just anywhere. I'm going to stay and watch the rest of it now. No. And the other thing is, Dean is most notable for his 70s hard rock music taste, and as the characters throughout the show get more of a clear idea of what they like and don't like, and things that define them as people, they perfectly interweave it into montages. Some of my favorite parts of the shows is every couple, maybe every 10 episodes, they'll have a great montage music video recapping what's happened in the season so far with one of what would be Dean's favorite songs, like a Led Zeppelin song or something like that. The quote-unquote classics. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, I guess they hadn't gotten the rights to the music yet. In this first episode, there's a lot of, like, background, like, royalty-free, moany indie music that no one likes and doesn't fit the personality of the show or either of the boys. Like, if Sam and Dean could hear the music being played behind them, they'd be like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? Like, get that trash out of here. Anyways, so we open up with the whole defining plot line of these people's lives. We've got it's Lawrence, Kansas. It's 22 years ago. We got a loving family, mom, dad, a little boy named Dean, and a baby just born, maybe a couple months old. I think 6 months, if I remember my supernatural lore correctly. Sammy, and it's just a normal night. They go to bed, whatever. But the walkie-talkie for the baby monitor, I think it's called a baby monitor, not a walkie-talkie. The baby can't talk back. Starts making static. So we've learned it's canon. Demons can't work technology. That is why, for the next 13 seasons, you never see them have a Twitter. I'm just going to point that out. Speaking of which, I need a freaking medal. I forgot. I've been saying this for I'm not sure how long this podcast has existed at this point, but I finally did it. I made a Twitter. I made an email. The Twitter is whattowatchnow_hyphen, because some lame-o has it, and you can, it's underneath in the description of this podcast, and the podcast email is whattowatchnowpodcast@gmail.com, and I would just personally love to hear what you guys have to think about or say about the show or your viewpoints or funny quips, whatever. If you want to either tweet it at me or email me, I'd love to include it in the next podcast. So don't worry about if your thoughts of Supernatural for this episode aren't premiering in this one. Don't worry about it. Just I'll put it in the next podcast. We can all laugh and join together. Anyways, so she hears the little static of the walkie-talkie, sees something's wrong. She goes into the room, and she initially, and this is a good, like, kind of horror movie, trick show looking type thing, because this whole show is supposed to be a bit horror movie-esque, you know what I mean? Except if you could go into a horror movie and actually punch back the monsters. And she sees what she thinks is her husband, John, over Sammy's crib. And she's like, oh, hey, how's everything? And he goes, shh. And she's just like, okay, whatever. And then as she's walking down the stairs, now I know the big reveal is she actually sees John in the living room sleeping, and she realizes that's a stranger in the bedroom. But I like to pretend she realizes, like, she's been shushed and she's not here for it. And she runs back, tries to go save the baby. And then this is the big twist. This big, weird, unexplainable twist. A man with yellow eyes somehow uses some abilities to pin Mary to the ceiling. She starts dripping blood. She's clearly in kind of a sleep paralysis. Well, I mean, she's not asleep. Awake paralysis type thing where she's unable to move, but she's feeling pain. And then, if we couldn't be extra, that's basically what's happening right now, a demon being extra, she just bursts into flames. It's like, could the whole pinning of the ceiling and the bleeding out and her being unable to scream, isn't that, like, enough? No. Add some fireworks in there. John sees this, successfully saves the kids. Actually, Dean saves his brother. By the way, this always made me laugh. We don't have a clear answer of how old they are. Dean later says he's 26, and we never hear Sam's exact age, but because he's applying for law school, we can assume he's like 21 or 22. So, theoretically, when Sam was a baby, Dean was probably like 4 at most. How the hell did he lift up that baby and run downstairs without them? I mean, I'm sure if this was real, he would have dropped the baby like at least twice. You know what I mean? But clearly he didn't, because somehow Sam, fast forward 22 years later, is applying for law school. We get it. He got 174 on his LSAT. Blah, blah, gibberish. He's smart. Which I don't know why the punchline is that Sam is smart, because if we actually go later into the show and we're kind of learning what it takes to have their job, they have to be like hacking into computers, successfully stealing people's identities, understanding how to counterfeit badges to be FBI marshals. Dean's very smart. He might not be LSAT smart, but he is very smart in a lot of different ways. So I don't know why they try to make Sam be the smart one and then Dean's defined by like loving rock and roll and beer. You know what I mean? But somehow it works. I don't know. Anyways, so we fast forward. Sam is living his life at Stanford University. Everything's going great. He's on the cusp of success. He's got a lovely girlfriend, Jess, who's not only beautiful. By the way, you could tell Sam was still like playing his Dean-esque role from Gilmore Girls and playing off that kind of like, I'm just a tall drink of water. Look at me bend my eyes down and just I'm channeling it. You could tell he hadn't quite, encompassed what Sam meant to him as a character, but that's fine. It's more of like a loving homage. I'm like, oh my god, there's Dean from Gilmore Girls. Took me a while watching this show to kind of, mentally take that in. In fact, actually, I've heard interviews where Jared Paledecki, who plays Sam, says that when they first started doing the show, when everyone's kind of getting to know each other on set, they will call the actors by their character names because it's just like easier. And they kept saying like Dean here, and then Jared Paledecki would go where Jensen Ackles would go, and they'd get in a bit of like no, I'm supposed to be here. No, I'm actually Dean. Oh yeah, I'm not Dean anymore moment. So everything's great. He's living his life, and he goes to bed. Dun dun dun. He hears someone breaking in. He sees a shadow walk across the room. The window's open. And he gets into one of the only karate matches we will ever see them have the rest of the series. But him, Sam, and this mysterious stranger get into this amazing battle fight. We see that Sam isn't quite what he says he is. Ooh. Because remember, if you're coming into the show and you're like, I don't know what Supernatural is about, all you know is some weird occulty thing happened and then normal life. And now a break-in. So it's really good at like, you're not quite sure where the story's going next. It ends up getting revealed that it's Dean. In fact, this is like there's no hard feelings that he attacked him. In fact, he teases him for not being better, well trained or out of practice. So we start to get an idea of like, this is weird and suspicious. Why is this the norm to them? You know what I mean? I'm trying to help anybody who hasn't watched this show to kind of like get into that mindset. He ends up trying to talk to him privately, trying to make it seem, damn, someone's pissed. Girl, we're in the suburbs. Chill out. Maybe they're a Supernatural fan. Anyway, you can see Dean is trying to, he has a hard time. It's like a beautiful metaphor. Like how he can't let go of the era that his car is from, the music he listens to, even the way he dresses himself. He can't seem to realize that Sam, who has not seen his brother in 2 years, has moved on. People can change, things can change. But no, to him, the lifestyle, him and his dad, the little family unit they have, has always been the norm. And he can't accept anyone can change. He has an idea and it gets fixated and that's that. And you better hope that you somewhere fit in that bubble of that fixation. That's all I'm going to say. And he tries to talk to him privately, but Sam's like, you can say it in front of Jess. Like, honestly, I'm so curious if Jess had been in the season longer. I think she would have been actually not cool with the whole hunting thing because she wouldn't have wanted him to be in hunting most likely and been hurt. But she wouldn't have been closed-minded to it. She could have even learned to wield a gun or something. I mean, hell, like, they brought Mary back. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Whoops, I didn't say that. Don't worry. We'll get to all that stuff in 13 seasons. I'll talk to you again in 13 years. So, he tries to share this information in front of our girl, but by Dean decoding in a kind of, or saying in a code-like way that Dad hasn't returned from a hunting trip, winky winky, I'm tapping my nose. That's a great little metaphor for the literal translation of where he's been. Sam quickly tells his girlfriend, like, I actually do want to talk to my brother in private. So they discuss, and this is the background, this is the story. We learn that it's unusual for the dad to have gone, and this is, and I quote, hunting and been missing for so long. So Dean kind of pesters him eventually into being like, help out, please. And the funny thing is, the whole narrative in this first episode is the general idea is that while Sam might have left his whole apple pie change of life, new lifestyle, he's still way too familiar with how he used to live. It's in his blood to be able to fight, fake identities, battle the unusual, and have kind of an unspoken code and way of working situations out with his brother. He can walk away from it all he wants, but it is in his blood. It does define him. But on the other hand, you can understand that he's like tired of it. Someone else forced him into this lifestyle. This isn't what he wants. Why does he have to live his life, considering, let's say he's like 22, it is ridiculous that someone would define put anyone in a situation, especially an adult, like a parent, and say, this is the rest of your life, I planned it out for you. I mean, people complain about that stuff all the time in real life, being like, my parents want me to become X, Y, and Z. And that's always a problem, and that never goes out well. Goes well, yeah. And it makes sense that while this is a bit of a cooler type idea, that he has the same quips as anyone else. I mean, in fact, think about how many people are like the children of actors, and they maybe don't want that fame. They don't want that attention. In fact, I think with the Osbournes, they had a third child, or they have a third child, but that third child lived in the guest house and never premiered or was on the reality show or anything because she didn't want fame. She didn't want to be involved in that type of lifestyle. It just wasn't for her. So you can feel for Sam, but on the other hand, you kind of, by the way, if anyone was put off by Dean's, like when he makes a comment about Sam's girlfriend's boobs right in front of him and like talks about the Smurfs and the Smurfs being on her shirt and like all of that kind of weird sexual demeaning type commentary, I swear to you, he's not like that the rest of the seasons. Yes, he is someone who loves women and he likes to do one night stands and all that jazz, but he is a lot kinder, a lot less uncomfortably rude. That's definitely not how I would define Dean the rest of the time period you get to know him. But in this, despite all that, even in this beginning pilot, you can feel he's super sensitive. He kind of, it's all an act. The only person he really connects to is his brother, which I have to say is not common in a lot of shows. And something one of the biggest things I would sell the show on, if you're tired of cliches and you want something different, is the main point of the show is about their brotherly love. No hate to like relationships, but those are very far and few and in between and not common at all on this show. It's mostly about their journey, their relationship. And I just think it's another dynamic that's like not discussed enough in TV show. And I don't know, it's nice to keep a certain clear path to the show. Do you know what I mean? I hope I expressed that well. Anyways, so then we have the main like thing we're going into. I wonder what it's like, because I've seen this show so many times, it's really hard for me to get into a mental space for someone who hasn't seen this show before. What was it like for you the first time you took in that hunting is what they do, and they hunt ghosts, werewolves, all that weird supernatural stuff? Like, what was that like with you? Like, when did it process and click into your head what was happening and what the show was about? And did you like it? Did you not like it? Like, tell me what were your initial thoughts and if it was enough for you to keep watching. I'm just curious. For me, it totally caught me off guard and I loved it because I am not someone who watches the Vampire Diaries, the originals. I'm not a supernatural, corny romance type of person. I love supernatural and monster lore. In fact, actually, if you want to check out, my partner and I have a podcast together called Mystery Storytime Podcast, where we share stories the other one hasn't heard, and we do mostly focus on supernatural, spooky stories, creepy stories, ghost stories, haunted houses, that type of thing. So I love that type of stuff. So, oh my god, sorry about the train. So to make a show that was set in a realistic reality where monsters were just kind of on the outskirts of all of it just intrigued me so much. They're hunting. And in this one, they wanted to see where their dad was last. That's the logic to all this. This is how it organically brings you in. And the nice thing is they never just sit there and say, this is what we do. You just have to watch and quickly understand what's happening. This is when the writing was really well done. There was a lot of thought trying to not make it too... Fun fact, this show used to be on, before it was on CW, the CW used to be known as WB. And this was actually one of the very first major shows that you could watch online. Yes, people, it deserves to be on Netflix. It has its origins in internet watching streaming. And can you even imagine how long it probably took on like dial-up and stuff to like, I don't know how bad the internet was back then, but it wasn't as great as it is now. Anyway, their logic is, we gotta go find her dad. Where was he hunting last? They end up finding the White Lady. The White Lady. Now, what confuses me about the White Lady, and it's a ghost, is... Should I even jump the gun there? Yeah, I'll just jump the gun. That's fine. We end up finding out through conversation that a White Lady is a woman who would most likely have been cheated on and out of insanity or grief temporarily would have killed her children and most likely herself. Okay, so that's a thing. That makes sense. There's enough people on this earth that could be a thing and that could become a type of ghost. Whatever, you still have me. Now this is where you lose me a little. Why is she in white automatically? Like, doesn't white mean innocent? Is she innocent because she didn't mean to kill her children, and like therefore that defines her moral high ground? Or like, shouldn't she be in black because she did something so awful no matter the circumstances? And then we get into a conversation of like what's good and what's bad, and when do we see it as good or as bad, you know what I mean? And also, like, why does it matter if she's in a dress? I mean, this is like, she died in 2005. Why isn't she in white pants? A white pantsuit. Why can't she be the white pantsuit lady? Come on, Supernatural, get with it. And I'm just kidding when I say that. Anyway, they are looking into a woman, Constance, and looking up her background, and they're hacking into the system. You understand they're putting together that she might have not been murdered. It could have been a suicide. We're digging into the lore. We're interviewing the husband. They're faking being FBI marshals. It's a whole extravaganza. And it's a very thankless job. We see that they're identity thieves because they know no one else is going to pay them for what they're doing. And yet, we don't have a clear answer to why they want to do this. We don't have a clear understanding of why it's enough for them. Like, is it enough for them that they're just doing good? I mean, a lot of people want to do good in the world, but don't you feel like you start to run out of being able to help someone? Like, example, let's say you give $1 all the time to someone that's homeless, right? What if you run out of money or you're running low on money? Wouldn't that be a time period you'd probably back away from donating money to take care of your situation until you're able to then help other people again? These people, I mean, they basically gave up their entire normal life. And I don't know if it's enough for them just because they're quote-unquote good people. You kind of have to ask yourself, like, what's wrong with them? Like, what is the hole that they are fulfilling, that they are lying to themselves and saying they're helping people? And they are, and I do think that is a part of it. But what is wrong with them internally that they need to keep doing this? Sam makes a really good point. He says, why do we need to keep doing this? Clearly they got into it because their dad, Negan. By the way, this is the prequel to The Walking Dead before the apocalypse. I like to pretend in a parallel dimension the apocalypse really did happen, that they didn't stop it, and that Negan like, Negan he changed his name to Negan, and he talks about his dead wife and everything, and technically, she did die in this world. He just doesn't mention he was a hunter and supernatural things were a thing. I just want to point that out. Anyway, Sam points out to Dean, listen, Dad wants to do this to find the thing that killed Mom. But what would it matter if we even brought her or got the thing that killed Mom? Like, that's not going to bring her back. She's dead. And he even says, like, to be honest with you, I was a baby. I don't even remember what she looks like, which seems a little callous. But, honey, you are going to eat your words so hard by the end of this episode. I am so sorry that happens to you. But he does make a good point on just the general idea. He's not even trying to be mean. He's not even trying to be a jerk. He's just making the point of being like, my whole life has been ruined and turned upside down without my consent, without any opinion in the matter. I'm 22 and you're still trying to drag me by your coattails. And it's not even going to fix the ultimate reason. Like, I'm calling bull on your main logic. It's as if Sam is asking those deeper questions. So again, another character trait of Sam. Sam's willing to talk about his emotions. We even get some cute banter between Dean and Sam. And we get this idea that, you know, they're willing to talk to each other about things no one else can. But there's also this loving respect of knowing Dean can't go there. He can only punch and fight. And that's what he identifies with more than what Sam can. Sam understands that, like, he wants to face things head on in the emotional sense, and he does face things head on in the manly sense, but they kind of make it feel that Dean has more, like, balls to him, that he's more hard, he's really going to go in there with a fight. But when Sam gets his home broken into, he immediately goes into fighting mode. He is more than capable of protecting himself. He has equal amount of, I guess, no fear. I don't think you can have an equal amount of no fear, but you get what I'm saying. Anyways, so they find out what the situation was with the ghost. And this is another thing I will a million times compliment about this show, and you will never get sick of. They, no matter how episodic it becomes with bigger plot lines, they never lose the Scooby-Doo element of this show. Every episode is about a ghost or a demon or whatever they're hunting and a mystery being solved. It's a mystery, and there's some brotherly drama in it. It's a beautiful plot line for a show, sincerely. And with really lovable side characters we will slowly be introduced to. And one of my favorite parts about the Scooby-Doo element, that we don't even get in Scooby-Doo, is we get these little horror short movies where we get to see how victims die, what's attacking them, really understand. Because remember, they don't fully say in the show, like, a dumb line where maybe the victim gets stabbed, and then we see a moment of Dean going, the victims must have been stabbed. It's not really like that, thankfully. They will usually get attacked by the ghosts in a different type of way, but we can at least see the general idea and whatever the ghost does on a regular basis. And in this ghost is basically Farrah Abraham. I'm just saying, she looks exactly like her. And I'm not someone who ever sexually shames anyone. I think you can have as much sex as you want or as little sex as you want. Go for it. I got no hate in my heart for you. I love it. More power to you either way. But Farrah Abraham is iconically known for her sex tape. I'm pretty sure she took, like, a can of Coke up her butt. I'm pretty sure that's a part of it. Anyway, Farrah Abraham is a sexual being, at one time was promoting herself in that way, and this ghost happens to be hunting down men that are unfaithful. But I think it's so funny and breaks all ghost rules so her deal is she tries to get men, she acts as like a hitchhiker, they pick her up, she moans and grunts, and again, more gratuitous boob shots, to get people to want to sleep with her, even though they usually have girlfriends. I don't know how she's ghost detecting if they have girlfriends or not. And also, is she only for guys, or does she hit up girls too? We don't know her sexuality as a ghost. Okay, guys? I'm asking the real hard-hitting questions. She gets them to cheat. And then when they're unfaithful, she says, take me home. But when she goes home, she says, I can't go home. And then she just murders them. So quite a long path of haunting. Quite a long run-out residual haunting. Fun fact, residual hauntings are very short. They are a real thing. It's just like powered energy in a house. And you just maybe see someone walk by a hall, or you hear a similar song or something like this. This is like a full-on, like, 25 minutes of residual haunting with full-on tangible interaction. But with Sam, I love when she's attacking him and trying to be sexual to him, and he goes, I'm not unfaithful, I never have been, and she just is like, screw it, I'm just gonna murder you anyways. Ghost rolls out the window. This is probably one of the worst written ghost stories. The rest of them are a lot more fun, and I'm not trying to sit here and point out loopholes, I'm just trying to point out the ridiculousness of this character, but it is certainly a good punch when Sam says, you're afraid of going home and I'm taking you home. And he literally drives the car. I have no idea how the car doesn't get dented. Drives the car through the house that she once lived in. And I kind of loved, again, the weird morbid ending that when she goes there, the reason why she was afraid of going home is she was afraid of being confronted by the very children, the ghost children, that she murdered. And I love that they're kind of The Shining, and they don't really attack her. They kind of like welcome their mom. There was like no resentment in their heart, but her face melts and she Wicked Witches of the West and disappears. Like in logic, because in supernatural logic, you burn the body and salt it. That's the idea. That's how the ghost goes away. They're usually attached to some sort of flesh and bone. But with this, she melted because she saw her wet children. Like, I don't know, and I love it. It's, like I said, when it has its flaws or it's corny, you just have a great time laughing. It's so good. There's nothing better than a good horror movie that just makes you laugh. You know what I mean? It's a weird sense of like, or if a good horror movie is freaking you out and you find yourself laughing. Oh, it's such a beauty of opposing emotions. Okay. So they solve the case. They're smart thinking, they work together, it comes from the gut, and then we get this ending. This jam-packed, the ending that defines, and such a great way to start a show, no matter the flaws of the first pilot. They're leaving. Dean tries to be like, okay, Dad left me a message in his journal to go check out these coordinates. Let's go to the next case. I'm ready, let's go. I'm so pumped to have you back. And Sam is like, yo-ho. I wasn't kidding. We're really breaking up. I'm gonna go to my law interview, which is in like 10 hours. You're taking me home. We gotta move on. And Dean has to swallow that hard pill. But they're kind of ending on like a nice note of like, I still love you. I'm glad I haven't seen you in a while. But like, you're gonna have to accept this as my new life. You know? I'm accepting. I'm fighting for it no matter, to the bitter end. So he goes in. He goes to see his girlfriend. He hears the shower going. Again, why is the shower going? Because she's not in the shower. Dun, dun, dun! She's on the ceiling, bleeding out the stomach, and burns alive, just like Mary Winchester, his mother. Horrific. And that's what I meant by him eating his words, because it was a little callous of him, but to be fair, to him, he was a baby. He's like, I'm having it thrown in my face, this event that I wasn't even a part of. It's almost like, this is not the same comparison, but like, hear me out. It's like if your one family has a problem. Oh, actually, this is a good comparison because my friend dealt with this in high school. So she had a family, and the other family, apparently their grandfathers had a problem. This is so weird. They coincidentally were both from Pakistan. But then they both also moved here and moved to the very same town, but separately for not the same reasons, which is so weird. And so this squabble has only happened between the grandparents, specifically the grandfathers. And now she's the third generation. And she doesn't understand why everyone still has a problem with each other when this was a fight between two people that doesn't have anything to involve with her. And a lot of the younger cousins felt the same way, but parents and grandparents would try to keep them apart as friends. And it was interesting that they even wanted to be friends with each other. It was a whole interesting dynamic. But the point is she was like, yo, you keep telling me about this event that happened, but I don't give a damn. This has nothing to do with my life. And, you know, I'm living my life. It's totally separate. I know it seems callous to say, but it's just the facts. With him, he was like, listen, I know mom burned alive and everything, and that is horrible, and I really wish I knew mom, but, like, this doesn't, like, I don't want this to define the rest of my life. And then the same thing that happened to another, probably the first woman in forever he had like a deep connection with. Because we know he's been dating Jess for probably a few years. So this is horrible. Like any woman that he remotely loves, and is blonde apparently, is just gonna burn alive. And that is horrible. And he is so quick to throw his entire life out the window. Jess, can we just have a moment for Jess? Can we just have a moment? Jess is the reason why we have Supernatural. I'm just saying. We need to take a moment to appreciate her as a character. Because she was a strong enough reason for him. She was a lovely, smart, supportive woman who was willing to be there for him no matter what. And because she's the one anchor to a new life that got taken away, he gets thrusted back, involuntarily may I add, to his old life. He's like, I got work to do. He, snaps his gun. But the interesting thing is, and this does show how Dean is not a callous person, the way they were kind of weirdly writing him for a second. Dean doesn't seem like, yeah, okay, cool, I got my brother back, I'm really selfish, I have to overcome that, blah, blah, blah. No, Dean, in fact, you can tell is like, oh, damn, like, I really care about you. I'm really sorry this happened to you. And oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how you feel with the whole, like, similar death, and yeah, I don't feel too pumped about this next brotherly road trip. You know what I mean? But that's how basically Supernatural begins. In one small moment, a decision was made, and the rest of his life was changed. And I think that really defines most people's lives. I mean, in every aspect, which makes life very overwhelming when you think about it. But just remember that you can either get over your grief or your anger and say sorry to that person, or overcome something and move forward and not fall down a negative path, or overcome really bad, fear or anxiety and make the best decision of your life. So try to remember when you sense that really big tough thing in your life happening, and really, no matter your emotions, see the bigger picture. No, I didn't mean to make this so deep and emotional. Wait a minute, you're listening to what to watch now. That's all I do. I can't help but get, life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. I mean, don't you do that? I always feel like I'm left really taking on an idea and, comparing it to my life and seeing how I can improve my life, or have more appreciation for my situation or other situations or whatever. Anyways, that was episode 1, Supernatural. I freaking love this show. I plan to go through all the episodes. I'm thinking of doing like a couple episodes at a time, maybe like once or twice a week. And I don't know how long it will take me to ultimately get through the series, but I think it will be really fun. Now, What to Watch Now is a podcast that is all about Netflix. So I will still, for the majority part, do like other TV shows and movies. That's the main point of the podcast. But I love Supernatural, that much that I really just want to talk about it. I don't even care the views. I just really, really, really love this show. And I'm trying to pitch it to you. I think you should too. I think you should go watch it on Netflix and come back and listen to this and write in and tell me what you think. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, this podcast was sponsored by me. I wrote a book series entitled Little Witch Detective by R.T. Pause, and you can get it on Amazon today. I've even grouped the first 3 books together for $4. So yeah, not too bad. And if you like this podcast, please give it a 5-star review on iTunes, or just follow it or like it on Spotify or Soundcloud. It would be very much appreciated, because I am but a small morsel in a giant pie of podcasts. Please help me build a crust. Please help me build a filling. Please be that filling. I want to talk to you. It's so weird. Okay, well, whatever, guys. Bye!